Dear Army Commander Raúl Castro Ruz, leader of the Cuban Revolution, dear colleagues of the historic generation that are here with us today, new members of the Council of State, members of the Council of Ministers, guests, deputies, our first words are to congratulate all the colleagues that were elected and designated today to occupy the positions of the National Assembly in the Council of State and the Council of Ministers. I would like to congratulate everyone in the date of the victory, April 19 of 1961. In Playa Giron, Cuba won the right to celebrate this date. The day he had the first win with the United States. It is about the win of the just against the unjust. With the leader of the bee against the giant Goliath in a social revolution against the threat of the imperialism, as Fidel stated in his speech in the victim of the bombing in Santiago de Cuba and San Antonio de los Baños in the invasion, before the invasion. This victory is epic that 62 years after the defeated couldn't have to forgive us. And it is towards that victory that today we say that, like 10th time, the Assembly of the People the 470 people that we designated as deputies, we do not want the curricula by having the favor of the party. Our only support is to fulfill the laws of the government, and is a defender of the interests of the people. Each one of us is sitting here today to defend the interests of the most, and we are not going to earn more money or be deputies, as it happens in as many countries that they pursue of multi-party democratic models. Cuba defends its model, the unity that we have today since Jose Marti founded the party, because it's in an history, because the forces of this nation are not being confronted, that 200 years ago was declared to annex with his neighbor when he was starting as imperialism. In a few days, April 28th, it will be 2 centuries that the Secretary of State and Quincy Ama will define Cuba his theory of the mature fruit. There are gravitational political laws, and as well as the physics, and as the fruit is propagated by the wind, it cannot stop from being on the floor. So that Cuba, when it is separated from Spain, and all the bonds that are within, is incapable of sustaining for itself. It needs to be linked to the union with the United States, and the union, in face of the law, it will be impossible. Since that announcement to the Monroe Doctrine, it occurred a lot of months. But during 200 years, the politics of the neighbor has been one. Even though there are 2 parties in the power, Cuba, it's very hard to distinguish it. All the measures that Donald Trump have done to Cuba to reinforce the blockade, Joe Biden has maintained it. Remember Giron, our parents warned in the invasion that it happened also in 1961. Because the mercenary attitude is also present. With Nicaragua and Somoza, the invasions were in the Everglades, and they threaten with social media. The neighbor is being generous with the to destroy the revolution, and every year it doesn't millions of dollars to those who offer to affect the order in Cuba, whether it be in internet or in the country. Not only this years we have not stopped feeling the war declared to our economy and our society against the dreams of a nation. Let us remember Giron, and let us remember the cruelty of the blockade reinforced in the conditions in the pandemic. The inclusion of Cuba in the sponsor of terrorism to stop all the financial ways that helped they stop from doing it, because they said they denied us every possibility of trade. Of all those battles, the people has a win, and I have no doubt that as in Giron we are going to continue winning. Cuba has its line of principles intact, but without pressures, without conditions. One day, sooner or later, the politics of the United States would have to stop. The multipolarism would have its space, and Cuba could prove to what point a nation of honest people could get. A nation of people that are together. If it released from pressures and blockades, let us concentrate on what is right now and on what we can do, even if we are tied from our hands and toes, in order to work together and to solve all these conditions that we cannot change. All of us will have less time for our families, less hours of rest. We only have bigger responsibilities and a high level of duty to serve the people of Cuba with his demands and his needs. I stop here just to highlight what I consider that is important to the new legislature. The permanent contact with the neighbors, with the communities, with the ones that elected us, conscious of that we cannot do miracles, but we can transform the challenge that are here today if we commit ourselves to all the duties and to make collective and individual efforts in the neighborhoods and the communities, in the province and the municipalities, and between the province and the nation, colleagues. From the first time of the power popular, we have to choose best. But to choose best, it would always going to be a very hard exercise. That is why that we have a very representation of these people that have extraordinary values, but that they choose the candidate for good reasons. There are good people in the parliament. Here are invited the refugees of the Saratoga and Super Tank. The creators of the vaccines and the medicines that save us from the COVID. Investigators and innovators that have participated in the creation of for the cancer. in the creation of equipment to cancer health, students and professors that spend their vacation working in the red zone, and in the construction of buildings and schools caused by the Hurricane Ian. We have Alexis Lela Machado Gacho with his brigade Machado that built a new school in several places in the place devastated where the hurricane started, and it continues working in this community and in several projects. People that approach us to the contention of the family code, leaders of the community projects, delegates of base that they develop the work. Among others that should be here, but they are here with us. In this assembly is the people of Cuba. It will be hard to forget all those days where we do not sleep, and when we wake up, the first look is going to be to the numbers of the COVID-19. I'm pretty sure that any simulation of artificial intelligence would resume the work of the Cuban people in the last years. The great resistance of the people of this country, his resilience, it overpassed the limits of any simulation or prediction. There is not algorithm to reflect all that we have lived. This can only be lived. Cuba is a feeling, and it's a force capable of tackling and winning all the conflicts. The world economy is unstable in all its way, and is the new challenge to the first Council of Ministers that should have all the support that to everyone to solve the obstacles and solve the problems. The direction should be based on the production of food, the management of the productivity, the increase of the increase in money, the transformation of the companies, the efficiency of the inversion process, the creation of economic actors, and the participation of foreign trade. All of that in the function of increasing the offer of goods and services and controlling inflation, that is stated in the first line of work in the economic battle. We have to assume these giant challenges without thinking it. With the starting of the blockade, the economic crisis and incapacities, this economic situation and social has worsened, and the dreams and plans and projects, those that we will not give up, will be achieved. Sometimes they think that it will not be possible, but if we review the dynamic of the last 5 years, we will see that under the worst circumstances, we became one of the countries that saved itself from the pandemic with its own efforts and its own challenges. When I'm asked about where do I get my optimism to tackle all of these problems, I believe in those things. And that in 100 solutions, every time that I see people that invest in intelligence, in energy, in order to find solutions to the problems that surround us instead of having regrets. I respect the rights of everyone to express his complaints, but I cannot condemn the attitudes. The ones who the ones who critique, and the ones who create solutions, or the ones that only see the mistakes and the blames of other deputies. In the last 6 months, there have been made 3 processes of popular elections, all of them in the context of a crisis and under the attack of a campaign imposed of the United States. And in order to state the hate, the true enemy of the nation wants to oust the people and to return to the colonial era that we suffered. This enemy saw in any of our elections, the referendum of family code, the election to the delegates and only to deputies, a moment to attack the government, a government that had his hopes in a high abstentionism. The proof of this were the headlines of the previous day. All of them, without exception, talked about abstentionism, even though the level of participation as the valid vote and the unite vote were more than the average of other models. The ones who predicted a high abstention conscious of the old design of this, in order to have the economic war to generate difficulties, they lose. That 75.8% of participation would never have been possible without the trust of the people in the revolution. And that trust is expressed in participation. It was a proof of the patriotism and overall of political conscience. Now that trust, we cannot lose it. We have to be committed. It obliges us to work along all the country in representation of all Cuba. If we work systematically in all the municipalities, if we guide all the local authorities without pressures, if we continue listening to the people, and we take those problems to the authorities, I'm pretty sure that we will achieve advancements in the solution of these problems. The transparency of electoral process they have tried to deny it as well, but they don't have one proof that could state that. Since the proposal of the students, the transparency is shown, and it coincides with the approval and the analysis of the candidates in the National Assembly. It is proven that when we interact with the popular basis in which we all are part, we can help solve the problems before they become wider. How many difficulties were resolved in the days of interacting with the new actors? So that is why I insist that we should maintain this seasonal work, and that should be a priority to this new legislator. We must have a response to all the requests made by the people, and to those will be occurring in the future. The country is advancing in the midst of these conflicts that are not part of us, but also the indifference. This all depends on every deputy that assumes with commitment the historic challenges that we have today to win the blockade without expecting to lift it. I would like to see how our government has been. There are people that are young. One of the main concerns of our years is that people are ordained. and the participation of all young people. I would like to thank to young people for the inspiration and for the encourage and for the example that were decisive to make possible everything that we have achieved. But we have achieved in the midst of all this crisis, those who are in the blockade, those who are with us because we live in a world of crisis, and those who create ourselves with our deficiencies. Young people are among the ones who made this country, the one who sustained the revolution and the dream of what we do and what we will do in the future. As all the Cuban people suffer the needs, the economic needs, and its consequences, but they are young that step up above the blockade, that they have future ideas, willing to make this country a better from the inside or the outside. These ideas that there will be possible to build a better country could not be abandoned, and not in the, let alone in the hard times. Cubans, we have learned to not give up, because we see in the difficulty, not an obstacle but a challenge, and we face it. That is a characteristic of a democracy. As I said a year ago, speaking with Giron when I was a leader, once Fidel warned us that in a revolution that is blockaded at us, some partners get tired. They lost their enthusiasm, and that we have to make the role of encouraging the revolution. That wasn't the 90s. Very hard times with inflation. There were no products, with shortages even more longer than the ones that are here today, with long lines because there was not oil. We prepared to the zero option, but we never give up to build a better country. As the heroic people in Vietnam in the midst of the war was also thinking about building a better Vietnam. There are the dreams that people have today, and that unites them, and they have those years in the memory. In a verse that states the collective will of building a better country, that's what I affirm, that we can do this, and tomorrow young people will do it better, because the ones who born in this dream will not allow that this will be otherwise. The young people are the best revolutionaries because they recognize the difficulties of the areas and they face it and they try to change it and they achieve it a lot of times, because despite of the adversity they keep smiling, they keep believing the possibility of a better country in spite of that some people is prevented from doing that. They understand that in order to be a better world, we should accept the differences of the other, being inclusive, to stop the discriminations in all levels, and understand that equality is a value that it has its worth. They prove it defending the family code as its own and supporting all the battles against inclusion and abuse, because they are feminisms and anti-racist, and they resumed the passion for baseball, where the team Acera was formed without following his football members. Every one of us, for our part, we have to encourage this spirit, and that they show what they can do, avoiding the manifestations that sometimes they can do, and they are related with the lack of attention, the vanity, the jealousy, and what is worse, the things in the past. We have to convince, but above all, prove our young people that they would that they can live in their homeland, that they can propose ideas, projects, and they can put this into practice. And they can put his efficacy into practice in order to build a better country. The measures that need to be approved cannot die because they would be unjustified. The life of every people is not forever, and the time and the need of everyone depends on the nation. Every time that a solution appears, we shall resolve it. On the other hand, we do not want to be part of the politicization of Cuba with the one that the enemy is dealing. We have to defend the relations with the people that emigrate, and that we state that we admire the triumphs and that her people helps them to return. We aspire that you respect the country that where they were born. I'm not talking about, of course, of the one who have sold their soul to the devil, living with the people of with the grief of the people, those who are living in every part of the world who preserve the love for the country, in spite of the obstacles that it represents to relate with Cuba with several reasons and without reasons. The ones that are here today in resilient building, we count on that Cubans that stay to our origins in order to overpass, to help the nation. Socialism is the closest to young people because it is not an end work. Every day is made, and the young people are fundamental to this. But why revolution? Why socialism? Sometimes we see it as the end, as the goal. The revolution is the mean to conquer everyone, the greatest rate of justice and happiness. That is not possible to achieve it in another system where the well-being is associated with the violence, where some people have few or nothing, because others have the biggest part of the wealth created by the people that have less. The project that we have proposed to date is different from other models, where there will be more levels equality, whether individual and collective, that it have and that it includes the prosperity in a framework, in a difficult framework as this one that we are living today, but always believing in creating something new, more than when we are talking about building a new part social. But in others they lack because of the questions. If it had, we cannot think that would be impossible. Our history is written of impossible. It's our tradition to overpass challenges, great challenges that we will overpass. We shall know that we can and we must achieve it. It was not a miracle that brought us here today. It was the revolution that started. The revolution that started fighting without arms in order to have the independence, sovereignty, and the end of slavery. Was the fight of a man poor and that have brilliant ideas in order to join all the generations that wanted to achieve those dreams. There were other men and women that suffered the frustration of all of those wishes, and they give continuity to the fight. So against the new independence of a new empire, and it was a generation that resumed the legacy that conquered the independence and the sovereignty with the arms. And with this position of these conquerors, it was proposed and was achieved to be a free nation, respected and admired in the rest of the world by his dignity, by his own voice, his solidarity with all the just causes, and education and talent of its children. This is briefly a historic people that did not got tired of fighting, and after 2 centuries they keep fighting it. The heirs of all and of other generations that emerged in Martí Infidel as a symbol of this extraordinary wealth. To Raúl, leader of the Cuban Revolution, that has continued the fight of those who assume all the biggest responsibility in the country. Thank you for the support and the trust that we will not lose it. To Cuba, to the people of Cuba, our acknowledgement for your worth, for your dignity, for your fidelity as a main leader, in the history. Dear people that I am proud of belonging, receive my respect, my admiration from me that I am a debt. I ratify that I will feel with passion, with commitment, without to the last consequences. Colleagues, you have said it. Unity and victory are the hope. Unity and victory are the present and the future of the homeland and socialism. Homeland or death, we will win.
At the beginning of his speech to the National Assembly, President Miguel Diaz-Canel congratulated deputies elected to the leadership of the National Assembly of People's Powers, the Council of State and the Council of Ministers. He recalled that on April the 19th, Cuba had in the U.S. its first great defeat, the triumph of David against Goliath. It has been 62 years since the victory at Playa Giron. The defeat have not been able to defeat the U.S., and it is thanks to the victory that we have set up the National Assembly of People's Power for the 10th time.
We have two things. Two deputies within the deputies that we have. They want to invite you to offer a number, a musical number. The deputy Ananda Rodriguez and the deputy Arne Garces.
So that was the speech of President Miguel Diaz-Canel to congratulate the deputies elected and the leadership for the National Assembly of the People's Powers. More news and more information in our coming briefing news. Stay with us.